Let me tell you about Family Life Services. It's such an amazing organization, and I'm so privileged to be a part of it. We are a long-standing ministry in Colorado Springs that has a rich heritage. The ministry was founded in 1942 by John and Ann Walden. Originally as an orphanage, they had taken children in on their own, and prior to that, living in their own home off of North Weber. And then in 1942, they were donated the property in which we reside now. So being able to support Family Life Services really allows individuals, churches, and families to be Jesus to these families. And so what we want to do is we want to show you some of the stories of some of the families that we've helped through the years at Family Life Services.
Well, before I came to Family Life Services, I was in a marriage that I thought was going to last a lifetime. I was so excited to have found my spouse, and I had a child, he had a child, and then we had a child together. And we had a really hard time blending our family. We just didn't know how to do that, and just everything just fell apart completely. I was, prior to coming to the marriage, I had a lot of baggage, he had a lot of baggage, and my mom was a teenage mother. She was 17 when she had me, 2 months shy of 18, and my father was a pool-playing musician, and they divorced when I was 5. My father left me and my mother, and so I was looking for acceptance. I was looking for love. I was looking for people to accept me for who I was. And I had just in and out of relationships, and being devastated, heartbroken. I'd always be rejected at the end of the relationships. And so there was a lot of rejection in my life from males. And so when I had found my husband that I married prior to coming to Family Life Services, he was 12 years older than I was. So I was looking for a father. I was looking for someone to take care of me, someone to love me and make everything okay. I thought he was my God. I made him totally my God. He was everything to me. I thought he was the answer, my savior. I think 3 weeks after we got married, things started to fall apart. And I think through a series of events, God was pulling me away from him to say, it was like my addiction. He was my addiction. I could not imagine living without him, because he was going to be my answer. He was going to meet my needs, and he didn't. So it all came to a head in the marriage, and it just totally fell apart. I was really devastated. I was seeing a therapist in Colorado Springs that I really trusted. When she said that she knew the director at Family Life Services, and she didn't really know what it was all about, but she said, just, give him a call. And so I called, and that's how that began. It was all for me about my relationship with the Lord at Family Life. I felt like that was where I really grew and understood how much God loved me and how valuable I was for the first time in my life, is, even in this horrific, devastating state, that God loved me so much. And I think through all of that, God said, and then bringing me to Family Life Services, and that's where I feel like God said, I am what you need. I am God. Your husband is not God. So I really felt like God had to pull me out physically from that relationship for me to have a relationship with him, and for him to be everything to me, my husband, my provider, my, the one who would love me unconditionally and value me. And he did that at Family Life Services through the counseling, through my understanding of him, through the Bible studies, the mentoring. That's where I really felt I met God. I understood, that God, who he was more, and that he loved me that much.
I grew up in a home of 4 children. My mother was very interesting. She took medication for bipolar disorder, and sometimes she wouldn't take her medication. So in the meantime, my father was at times very harsh. One night he woke us all up in the middle of the night and lined us up and said, "Who turned on the heater? I want to know who turned on the heater." And he just yelled and screamed. And at one point, I remember saying in my heart, "Okay, I'll obey him because he makes me mind him, and I'll do it, but I won't let him in my heart." And I believe that I took that on into my life with my relationship with God, just thinking that God was like my father, and he was flippant and angry with me and distant, that I just had no hope with him. And I ended up marrying a man who was that way. I was 17 and pregnant with my first child. And wow, he was so mean to me, very abusive. The last time he abused me, he threw a beer can at my face and bruised my face, and these things just kept building. And as it got worse and worse, I began to surrender to God and say, "Okay, I am trapped here. I need to get out of this. There's no way, and I'm going to trust you because I think that you might not be that angry father ready to slap me, but you might really help me out of this." And I called my father and told him what was going on. And he called me the next day and he said, "We want to come get you. We want to move you to New Mexico. We want to move you and your kids out of this mess." And for my dad to do that was a miracle. He rescued me. And took me to the most beautiful place. And I knew I needed to change, and I knew I needed to grow and find some life skills that were better for my family than what I had. And that's when I found Family Life Services. God just put it right before me. My church gave me a big party and moved me here. And I had my own little apartment and wonderful people just to walk me through life and teach me some new ways, to live differently. I learned some really difficult things and some amazing things while I was at Family Life Services. I had some health problems that I went through off and on. My children had to go live in another home. I had to get on my feet and get healthy and get well. And it was really tough, but the staff just walked right beside me and just kind of held my hand, and walked me through that time. And we're all just benefiting from it in the long run. One of the staff members, and she's been on staff since it was an orphanage, always would point me to Jesus and just tell me, God is faithful. He will take you through this. And I held my head up. I held my head up because I knew God was faithful. And able to get me through and work all this out for our good. And he did that.
As you can see, God's really making an impact on the lives of the families and the children at Family Life Services. We want to thank you for your consideration, for volunteering with our organization, as well as your financial support. And just to know that this organization has been around for 70 years, serving the most vulnerable in our community. And we are so excited about your partnership because it's going to allow us to continue for the next 70 years.